Okay, everybody, we are going to get started again, so feel free to grab your food, grab a drink, and take a seat. And we'll officially be kicking off the luncheon. Is everyone enjoying their food? Yeah, I love KJK. They are a local caterer and they do catering and also online delivery. So definitely check them out. If you're wondering what I have in my hand here, it's a microphone. Super cool. So do not mind me in holding this bad boy. But I just want to say before we get started, thank you so much again to Alta ML for partnering with us and providing this beautiful, beautiful space. Like I said, if you haven't already looked outside, make sure it is on your list of things to do before you leave today. And then I just want to say thank you so much again to our presenting partners of the C Tribe X Gaming Festival, which is the Government of Canada supporting Black Canadian Communities Initiative, the Edmonton Regional Innovation Network, the City of Edmonton, and the Meet Me Downtown Initiative, the Government of Alberta LMP program, Edmonton Unlimited, Creative Gaming, Interactive Arts Alberta, and Pixel Blue College. The beauty is truly in the intersection of industries and fields gathered here today. And today at the C Tribe X Gaming Luncheon, we invite you to forge powerful connections with like-minded industry leaders, enabling you to drive the evolution of technology forward and create lasting impact. So if you haven't already met someone new, make sure that you do it after this, okay? And I'll be going around and asking you guys pop quizzes maybe on who you've met. Just kidding. But seriously, network. And together we'll be able to navigate the ever-changing gaming landscape, explore emerging opportunities, and set the stage for a brighter future. So during this fireside chat, Abel will talk about the process his team went through in defining a need, building a proof of concept before iterating and gaining product market fit, strategic pivots to establish a competitive stance, raising money and creating opportunity for exiting, selling their business. So today, we have the pleasure to be joined by Abel Matthew. Abel lives at the confluence of gaming, technology, and entrepreneurship, bringing a blend of technical expertise, operational, and strategic foresight, and an entrepreneurial mindset. His professional path includes roles such as CEO and founder of Backtrace.io, CTO of Sauce Labs, and head of engineering at AppNexus, where he successfully merged innovative tech solutions with strategic leadership and operational excellence. Presently, Abel's focused on developing solutions that support the creative and entrepreneurship spirit. Participating both as a hands-on developer and as a strategic advisor to startups and venture capital firms, his approach is pragmatic and solution-focused, driven by dedication to pushing the boundaries of innovation and enhancing the state of human expression. So as you can hear, this is gonna be a super exciting conversation. So without further ado, I have the pleasure of introducing Abel Matthew and Sar Safa, who will be our monitor.
Are we on? Can you hear okay? Yes. Okay, awesome. Well, you know, when I was doing my dog fooding pitch to my partner this past week in terms of how we were going to introduce our underestimated communities report, you know, it kind of really struck me that when the gentleman that I showed on the slide, Nick, he was talking about the idea of an executive sponsor at work and someone who can support you along your career journey. And I was like, okay, I got the full circle moment here, because Abel was actually my executive sponsor at Sauce Labs when I was there but I didn't mention it and I didn't share it, but I'm sharing with you now, and I'm just very happy and humble to have this opportunity to have this chat with Abel today. Abel, you say that you are a recovering CEO and CTO. Why do you use the word recovering? And what has your life been like now that you've taken a company, I think your first company, from idea all the way to exit?
Yeah. First of all, really excited to be here. It is a I wouldn't say full circle moment. It's a dot in the long trajectory, I'm sure, of us working together, for sure. So why do I use the word recovery? It might tie to some of the themes that you were talking about before, but I personally don't come from a background of leading companies. I'm not a natural born leader. I certainly didn't have a ton of examples growing up of that. And so being a CEO, a co-founder, being CTO, it pushes you in ways that are unexpected, and sometimes that can be really challenging. So honestly, it's about self-care. Now that I'm past that point, I just, part of what I wanted to do was take the time to check in with myself, make sure, I'm still who I want to be, that kind of thing, because you know this, when you're in the middle, when you're in the middle of it all, the grind, you don't pick up your head and be like, oh, what's everything that's happening to me and the like. That's why I use the word recovering. It's also a little bit of a joke to suggest that, it's really hard being at the top, but that's definitely why I use the word recovery. I think also, so just to give some context here, Backtrace, I was the co-founder and CEO, started that in 2014, and we exited in 2021. It was close to 7 years and a couple months, which hopefully gives you guys some context of think about just working on something for 7 years, every day, waking up, thinking about it, dealing with problems, etc. So while it is somewhat of a joke, the idea of recovery is true in that okay, it's now I don't have to wake up and think about this thing all the time. Yeah.
And maybe fast forwarding to the end, do you see yourself jumping back in the weeds and taking a brand new, from scratch idea and thinking about how you can bring it across the finish line again?
Okay, I'll frame it with C-Tribe. I just watched that slide deck and it put a smile on my face. And I was preparing a little bit for this talk, but also in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I remember this moment at Backtrace. I remember when I was doing an all hands, it was 10, 15 people within the company. And I'm sitting there and look, this is the vision, this is what we're gonna do, thinking much larger than where we were. And so, okay, am I gonna take an idea and potentially build a company around it again? Am I gonna start another company? Honestly, probably, I will, because there's nothing more exciting, especially after you've done it, especially when you're in the middle of it. I just said I was recovering, but also there's nothing more exhilarating than being on that journey, which I'm sure you feel a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we feel it a lot. I mean, there's many times that I tell people that I sleep like a baby because not peacefully, always just kicking and screaming, at night and stuff, because there are so many trials and tribulations that you deal with when you're building something. And so maybe if we're kind of double clicking in there, what has been a little bit of maybe an aha moment of being at that place now where, and I hate to kind of say it, but you kind of described it when we were chatting as being able to get off the hamster wheel a little, and being a little just maybe more secure, and you don't have to necessarily do some of the stuff that you were doing before to get to the stage that you're at. Maybe can you give us an idea of what that aha moment has been and how you're like, oh wow, this has been something that I've never experienced before, and I'm here. What kind of triggered that for you?
Yeah. Well, so also I wouldn't say, I don't know if I should call myself underestimated in any way. I think maybe I am in many ways, but I definitely don't while I never thought of myself that way, I always had to deal with imposter syndrome in kind of these circles, right? So when you're raising money or when you're talking to folks, when you're selling a product to executives, It can be really intimidating. And so like that aha moment was, it was just this legitimate moment where it was like, oh, I can no longer really discount myself and what I'm capable of. Just objectively, like someone will look at my background now and go, oh, no, you've accomplished a lot. Like you can't say that you're not good at anything, and that kind of mentality. What that really unlocked is two things. I think confidence can be an amazing thing, which is why something like an executive sponsorship, an executive sponsor, is super important. I had my own executive sponsors throughout my career. I 100% agree with everything you said there. But so confidence is one thing that it unlocks, and confidence allows you to, there's this concept by Phil Stutz in his book called The Tools, which talks about your inner shadow, that naysayer that you have inside of you. Confidence and objectively being able to look at yourself and like say, yeah, I can do these things. It allows you to get over that, internal naysaying. I think the second thing is it opens up the opportunity aperture. So like, what could you be possibly working on and the like, which reinforces, you think, I could do a lot of things. I could do, spend my time doing, etc. But one of the hardest things I learned while I was running a company was this idea of focus. For anyone out there that's working on an idea, working on a company, etc., it's so easy to get distracted by the 100 different things that you can do. But they say that a startup superpower, when they compare themselves to a larger company, is their ability to be agile and their focus. Focus is a superpower. And so what it truly unlocked when I had that aha moment, it was implementing focus throughout my life and actually seeing that play out in the way I saw it when I was running a company as well. Because you can take this energy and this motivation and ambition, and you focus it on a subset of problems that you're thinking about. It's amazing what you can do.
So take us back a little bit. Backtrace. Give us the not so nerdy version for people like myself who aren't so technical, and maybe for some of the more technical people, give us also the technical description of what Backtrace is and was, and the problem and challenge that y'all saw when you were starting the company.
Yeah, this is gonna be hard because I'm super nerdy. So how do I give a non-nerdy description? I'm actually half joking. I've done this so many times at this point. But we didn't actually talk about this, but just by way of my background, I was a software engineer for well over a decade. Working on low-level systems, so primarily in stuff like C, C++, and then kind of worked my way up the stack. And this gives an indication of kind of the problem set that I was familiar with, which is one of the lessons that I learned in hindsight. I shouldn't say learned, but it was an advantage that I had. But working in a problem domain that you feel passionate about and know about is super important when you're starting a company. And the same thing goes when I talk to people developing games. They take inspiration from other games they developed and the like. So it's super important to just be in a space that you know or feel comfortable in with ideas. So with Backtrace, because I was a software developer, me and my co-founder were working at a company where the simplest explanation is we were dealing with problems where there was instability in our software platform. This instability resulted in software crashes, or it could result in non-responsiveness. So me and my co-founder were often thought of as the head debuggers, because we knew the system really well. Whenever a problem happened, we'd be the ones who would open up our laptops and be like, all right, let's dig through the logs, let's figure out what's going on. So Backtrace at a very high level is two main components. The first is the ability to extract relevant information from software processes in the event of an error or an issue. So particularly with games, think about when a game's crash or a game's stuttering non-responsiveness, right? So how do I capture, I will be slightly technical here, but how do you capture things like the call stack across running threads? How do you capture local and automatic variables? I can't just look at a program and be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what's going on, unless I have data about what it's actually doing and what it's processing, etc. So that was the first part of it. The second part of it is, games will experience these types of errors potentially millions of times a second. I remember once one company, I will not throw them under the bus, was launching their game. And on their launch weekend, they were sending on the order of about 2 million crashes per minute to Backtrace, which is actually great. It meant a lot of people were playing their game, but it also meant that it was unstable. So how do you deal with that many data points? The second component of Backtrace was to be able to give, in a really simplistic sense, a bird's eye view of the data that was being captured. So how do I find patterns that might lead me to, the singular issue that was causing these millions of crashes? There.
And along the way of building Backtrace, you have built and led very talented teams. I mean, you are in the mecca of the financial sector of the world of New York City, and you've built companies there. What has been some of the learning lessons you've taken along the way of both the identification, the recruitment, the nurturing, and enabling the teams that you've grown and led so successfully?
Yeah. So the first part, we do definitely want to focus on the team because, especially in hindsight, when you look back at Backtrace or any journey that I've had, it's usually the result of working with high-performing, really just, a team dynamic. It's really hard to do things on your own. So the way I think about this now, especially when I talk to other CEOs and the way I've done it in the past, is you really have to you have to look at the unit of an employee. I stand on the shoulders of giants when I really think about this, and my methodology is around things like Gallup 12 questions, if you've never experienced that. Or it's this idea of how do you as an employee feel motivated, feel empowered, feel like you want to wake up every day and go to work. And so these 12 questions is a survey that really focuses on, I would say 5 bullet points. The first is that every employee should have a clear objective or a clear set of outcomes that they're trying to achieve. The second part of it is that as an employee, you should feel that you're empowered to achieve those objectives. You can't give me a goal and then I can't feel like I'm defeated. I'm like, there's no way I can ever achieve that goal. You're not giving me enough budget, or I don't know the right people, I'm not connected. So the second point is okay, every employee has to feel that they're empowered to be able to achieve those objectives. The third is that as an employee, I have to feel aligned and inspired by the company's mission and their strategy in executing that mission. The fourth is really around this idea of meaningful feedback channels. And meaning comes from feedback channels when it's acted upon. So I used to get really frustrated my first job out of college where I constantly give feedback on the system software, on all of these things, but then it would never be acted upon. That would discourage me from being my best self, from being a high-performing employee. So meaningful feedback channels is that fourth point. And then 5, it's about being with other high-performing individuals, taking inspiration from not just your leadership, but the other employees. All right, so we're talking about recruiting high-performing teams. And the whole idea is if you actually start with the right foundation, these 5 questions and instituting them in your organization, your studio, whatever, the company that you're building, then you actually naturally make people who may not be high-performing. So you have to start with the unit of employee. And then once you've started with the unit of employee, you then work your way out to the team. What do you have to institute on the team level? Well, the first is that the team has to know how what they produce ultimately feeds into the strategy and mission of the company. And the reason why you think of work on the team level is because what people do is fluid, right? They will change roles, etc. But teams are units of, think of them like machines that are producing work. But more importantly, every individual on that team knows, okay, I'm working on this project feeds into this part of our strategy, I'm making an impact in the company. Which, by the way, I actually missed that point on the previous point, but every employee should feel like they're making an impact on the company as well. It's really important. And either impact on the company or impact to their personal mission, alignment of what they want to achieve in life. Okay, so every team needs to know how they contribute to the strategy. The second part is really around clear and measurable outcomes on a team level. And that's super important as well. And then the last piece is not just knowing where your strategy is, but also knowing kind of the team's place within the organization. So how they contribute and how they collaborate with other team members. This is a really long-winded answer, I know, but like you actually have to fit these things in. So I've learned from failures. When I did not do this, whenever I was running a team, I had 6 people quit on me in a single day. And guess what? How big that team was? It was only 12 people. So I had 50% of my team quit in a single day because I was missing some of these things. Because, for example, they didn't know their alignment, like what they were working on, how it was contributing to what we were trying to achieve ultimately. They didn't feel empowered, etc. But once you have these elements, the last piece of this is really around the systems and processes you use to implement these things. That's a really maybe technical or long-winded way of actually talking about culture. How do you build high-performing teams? What you're actually trying to do is institute these things with as less cognitive load or as less being on your head as much as it is possible. You naturally want people who are thinking about how they're making an impact on the organization. So what I would do when I was running organizations or good teams that I've been a part of is naturally within meetings, these things would come up on how we align to strategy and the like. So the last piece of how do you build and recruit high-performing teams is really around instituting a culture through a set of systems, processes, through a mentality of implementing the things that around the employee and the team there. The recruiting part then actually becomes quite easy. You got to find the right people, but the right people will self-identify when they talk to other people on the team about these other elements. So once you institute these things, and again, I say easy relatively, but you then have to, you find the right people, but then you introduce through the interview loop these characteristics. Naturally, high-performing individuals would be like, oh, I want to be a part of that team. I want to be part of that organization because I clearly see how it can make an impact. It's going to benefit me in some way, and I'm going to be working with awesome people in a good system.
That is an entire masterclass on building and scaling and growing teams. And in true SAR forgetful fashion, there's one thing that I forgot. We are actually joined by one of our special partners. We've been working with them for about a couple years now, and we've had the pleasure and honor of working with them. And we're going to transition into the next part of the interview here with Abel and talk about his work that he's done before he was an entrepreneur and kind of the foundations that he was able to create there. He was actually a teacher in South America, which we'll get into. But before we get there, we're going to break for a quick commercial and introduce Monica from Edmonton Unlimited to come give her remarks on behalf of Edmonton Unlimited. Please.
Oh, cool.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yes.
I feel special.
Or you can say it. You can say it. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I hope that you can all hear me. Please let me know if you can't. My name is Monica Rukiba, and I am a program facilitator at Edmonton Unlimited. I'm sorry, I'm not the CEO. I'm just filling in. Teamwork makes the dream work. We all connect. So a bit of information about Edmonton Unlimited. We are driven by a clear mission statement, which is to help individuals like yourself who have business ideas. So we empower them to take those business ideas and create thriving businesses that that connect and empower our local economy and impact our community and beyond. Now, we're able to run these programmings that support you at your startup, but because of Alberta Innovates, and sorry, I need to go back to my notes, I apologize. I'm getting a little nervous. Public speaking is not for me, but I'm trying my best.
You're doing well.
Thank you, I like the support. So Alberta Innovates and Edmonton Regional Innovation Network. So because of their support, we're able to provide free programming that help you in your startup journey. So that means having workshops where you are creating a lean canvas, so you're in the ideation phase, you're testing your business ideas, all the way to building and scaling and growing. So we're here to support you, and we're very happy to be part working with C-Tribe and supporting this, they support this innovation field. So we would like to, oh my gosh, y'all, I am so sorry. I am so nervous.
Let's give her a
Oh
round of
my
applause.
God.
You got it. You're doing well. You're doing well.
Oh my goodness, I apologize. Anyway, so just to sum it up, if you are interested in learning what programs we support, that we have that can support you, please come to me or my colleague here to learn more about the programs we have, or go to our website, edmontonunlimited.com, and sign up for a Get Started meeting. That's your opportunity to share where you are, and we're able to provide you with the supports that you need. So as a facilitator, I'm also very fortunate to be working hands-on with entrepreneurs at the different levels they are at. So one of the privileges that I have is that I get to coach entrepreneurs as they try to, I guess, like you said, there are many challenges that entrepreneurs go through. So we get to support them as they go through these challenges of building from an idea all the way to an actual business. So we are very fortunate, and we're very happy to see that innovative organizations like the C Tribe Game X Festival. Oh my goodness, I messed that up.
I get it all wrong all the time.
X Gaming Festivals has, because right now, as I personally came into this space, I felt welcomed. It's an opportunity for people to network and meet each other. It's an opportunity to meet people from who are game enthusiasts, who are developers, who are like myself, who are new to this industry and are just looking to learn. So it's amazing what this space has for you, and it's an opportunity to be empowered, make real connections, and encourage that learning and innovation. So Edmonton is Unlimited as an organization that's dedicated to fostering innovation, learning, and building community. We really appreciate the impact that the C Tribe team is doing here. So I want to thank you, Sar, and the C Tribe team for all of your hard work and your perseverance and your dedicated commitment to fostering this innovative community. So that is all for me, folks. I am done. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend attending this C Tribe X Game Festival.
That's right.
Awesome.
Thank you. And shameless plug, pitch quest competitions where game developers are going to pitch for capital and mentorship and advice. We're going to have an esports tournament there, and there's so much more to get into. It's honestly one of the most world-class and state-of-the-art facilities that we've had the pleasure to work there. And back from our commercial break, feels a little like a podcast right now. Abel, Backtrace was one of your very first companies. And before that, you spent a lot of time, working with and for other companies and also teaching in South America. What was that experience like? And what led you there? And what were some of the outcomes that you may have received from doing something like that?
Yeah, well, I think the first point to really emphasize is that my interest and my background weren't always software development. So as you mentioned, for a brief stint, I was a math teacher in Guyana, South America. I also really love music. And so at one point, I tried my hand at being a professional musician. I studied it at one point too. It's just a word out there to all entrepreneurs or just people where, yeah, everyone has a really diverse set of interests. It doesn't mean that your whole life has to be dedicated to one craft. Actually, being well-rounded helps me pursue my craft to a far greater degree because I've just got different sides of my brain, right? So with teaching in Guyana, South America, I mean, one part of your question was how did I even actually end up doing that? So I had graduated university and was kind of just struggling along. I tried to be a musician, that didn't really work out. I wasn't making enough money. Additionally, I joined a company that, 3-letter acronym, and really did not like my job at all. I was kind of disillusioned with like, oh, I went to university, I did all this stuff. I really don't like the corporate world. And so you got an angsty 20-something person out there, just like, all right, what do I want to do next? What do I really want to do with my life? I'm thankful to my parents because they always taught me growing up to like serve your community, especially those that are maybe underestimated or maybe everyone can use some form of help. So I applied to a program and got accepted to teach math in Guyana, South America. That like briefly, because I know we want to talk more about like gaming and all this kind of stuff, but another kind of data point in terms of having diverse experiences were a lot of the stuff that I talked about with leading a team. And as clinical as I can sound, it's totally different when you're actually doing it in the real world and implementing it. And teaching in a totally new country where it would have taken several hours by flight to get back to anyone that I knew that I trusted or felt comfortable around. I was living in an area where I did not have internet. I had a small netbook, if you remember those things, so it wasn't very powerful. And I probably would log in maybe 1 hour a week on my computer at most. I'd have to travel about an hour to the capital to use email, and I was teaching math and a little bit of physics and the like. The experience taught me a couple things. Life is really what you make out of it. And so that experience really taught me about this idea of like connecting with my community, and the power of actually, when you serve others, I'm very much a servant-based leader. When you serve others, it actually ends up benefiting you dramatically. It always comes back, no matter what. You don't know how, but it will. My life is a testament to that. I think additionally, it's about being intellectually curious. Like how do you figure out how a new culture in society works and all this kind of stuff? And I would just sit there and in these conversations just soak up as much as possible. And even though they might be talking about the same things over and over again, right? It's about actually digging in deeper. And to tie it back to actually like something meaningful to the crowd and the audience, people watching, being intellectually curious as an entrepreneur is one of your superpowers as well. Because ultimately, like the whole idea behind building a business and the like is creating a high leverage situation, meaning like creating a situation where you can actually charge for a product, either because they need it or because it improves their workflow, et cetera, there. So leverage is a really important concept when running a company. And being intellectually curious allows you to identify opportunities. Even in what we're doing, and we'll talk about this later, identifying these opportunities you're not like actively seeking this one thing. It actually, in some cases, can come to you and the like. So being intellectually curious, opportunities. And then the last piece is my personal experience teaching and really going through some of the struggles of teaching, of imposter syndrome, not knowing what I was doing, et cetera. It ended up being a personal experience that I had that I can reflect on in really tough moments when running a company, where I could look back and go, actually, you know what, Abel, you've done this before. There's no reason you can't do this other thing. Oh yeah, it's like, oh, I really do not want to have this next meeting. I'm really tired of working, et cetera. It's like, no. Let's like take a step back and go, all right, actually, no, you've persevered before. You know what the outcome will be if you just put your mind to it. So like, just keep persevering.
And when we think about your journey of building Backtrace and all those lessons that you've taken from those personal moments as you so well exemplified, you talked a lot about serving others and serving individuals. And I think when we were having a conversation just off the cuff, you said that one of the best moments of getting that news that Backtrace was being acquired was going to your team members, going to your employees and saying, hey, because of what we've done over the last 7 years, this is part of the outcome.
Yeah.
And this is the next stage in the journey. Can you maybe just expand on that a little bit? Because I think it ties really well into this concept of servitude, and people think that when you're the boss that people work for you, but you're actually you report to all of your team members, so to speak. So yeah, can you expand on that idea of servitude within a company a little bit and how that has helped you along the way of kind of building and selling Backtrace?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're 100% right. You actually flip the script in how you think about leading when you're leading a company, et cetera. If you go look at some of the bigger companies in the world, companies that have done really well, you always hear about this notion of like customer obsession. And as a leader, actually, you're employee obsessed. You're team member obsessed. Because at the end of the day, people who are obsessed in serving others, they find the opportunities. They're myopically focused on driving value. So, there's several moments, like as you said, one of the proudest days of my life was being able to go and talk to team members of Backtrace. After all the paperwork was signed, I can finally talk about it and just talk about obviously the career and professional implications of that. And there was, some financial implications as well, and being able to just talk them through that and saying like, yeah, just like being able to witness life-changing moments for other people while I myself was experiencing a life-changing moment. But I also want to tie this a little bit to like the journey of entrepreneurship, especially in the games world. Something that is deeply and uniquely satisfying is watching other people use your craft, whether it be art, whether it be tech, and seeing them make games with it, or seeing your games out in the world and seeing other people play it. I talked about that potentially one game that was like sending millions of crash hits per minute, but at the same time, I went and played that game. And it was a uniquely proud moment being like, oh, actually something that the team and I helped build is in this game right now, and it's helping them improve it. So yeah, which is also this whole idea of perseverance. You're always serving someone, use it to your advantage, but also serving something, someone, an idea actually ends up benefiting you in the end, and it ends up creating really fruitful moments in life.
Can you walk us a little bit through that process of actually selling your company? And that process of, I think your story is really unique because you went from being a acquired company to then the CTO of a Fortune 500 company that acquired you within the matter of months.
I still don't know how that happened. That was just, yeah. No, I'm half joking. That's the imposter syndrome coming back. As an entrepreneur, or anyone working on an idea, so imagine this, like you're gonna wake up every day, you're gonna wake up every week, and you're working on something. And at some point, you're going to hit failure, you're gonna hit hardships and the like. Every time you do that, there's always this moment where it's like, should I keep going? Should I keep doing this? Is it worth it? The funny thing though is, so first of all, you don't sell your company is bought. And what that statement's actually trying to say, or what it actually says, I should say, is the companies only want to buy your company, companies only want to buy your product when it's at its peak. When you're on the upward trajectory, not when you're on the downward trajectory. So I talk about these hard moments of persevering, et cetera, but then you get to this moment where it's like, oh yeah, everything was actually going really well with Backtrace. We were about to raise another round. We were, the typical KPIs, key performance indicators of the business were doing really well. But also, we were 7 years in, I was looking around, and I kept reflecting on all of the really, really hard moments I had just dealt with within the past several years. And so yeah, there was that, within one of those past moments where it was really hard, I kind of reflected and go, it might be time for me to think about landing the ship, so to speak. And so when we were on the up, and when I could talk for hours. Actually, I have talked for hours about how to sell your company and the like. So I won't do that now.
Dang it.
But it's this notion, we were doing really well. Then ended up getting some offers, and then going through that process of selling the company. But it was years before where it just kind of there was this moment of yeah, I think my soul says it might be time for me to move on.
You pivoted into the gaming space with Backtrace.
Yeah.
And I think one of the aha moments that you had was signing up for an event like GDC and getting all these inbound requests of people that wanted to try and experiment with your software, even though, to my understanding, it wasn't initially gaming a company meant specifically for the gaming industry.
No, we didn't. We weren't focused on gaming at all.
How did that pivot happen?
Yeah. Well, okay. You'll see me reference points that I've already talked about, so apologies for that. But this idea of like customer obsession, team member obsession, like being obsessed with the person that you're serving, you got to have conversations with them. So if you're creating a game out there, or if you're creating something for game developers, or even you're working at a studio and the like, you just got to be obsessed about your players. You got to be obsessed about who your end customers and the like. So started Backtrace had nothing to do with gaming. And we were struggling as a company. So as CEO and the co-founder, one of my jobs is, they say your first job as CEO is to make sure you have money in the bank. And your second job is to define the strategy and the strategy to keep it growing. So because we weren't doing as well as we wanted to, and we had raised venture capital, which adds additional pressure, I was finding, I was attempting to find adjacent markets where we could apply our product and our technology that had the possibility of growing, helping us grow our revenue to something that was formidable and sizable. The funny thing about Backtrace ultimately becoming a game tech company was, so we built this product and it was used by a variety of different customers. However, the technology we built could be applied to video games. It was video game companies that ended up finding us, not the other way around. So I wasn't selling into games and the like, but without saying their name, it was a big gaming company out there, and I had no idea who they were. I never played their game, but one of the things we had was you could download Backtrace, you could try it out for free, and so they just started using our product, and then we saw this. They actually reached out to us and were like, "Hey, this solves a really big need that we have. Can we start using Backtrace? And how do we pay for it?" And we had pricing and packaging that was not well suited for the gaming industry as well. So then we started having lots of conversations and to be able to package it accordingly, which then led to GDC, where I went down there and go, "Okay, we've got one gaming company using us. Can this be a thing?" And then we had meetings booked for us, by these companies that were interested in using Backtrace. So it really taught us a couple lessons. The first is that you got to put your work out there, because you don't know who's trying to find it and the like. No matter what, you just got to put your work out there. Secondly, you've got to be open to everything that's happening. So meaning when people are trying to reach you, et cetera, always keep open lanes of communication and the like. And then being agile, because at GDC, I probably was booked a ton of times. I was talking to a ton of people, learned a ton of things. And then it's the second you get that moment where it's like, actually, this might be real. We've got to change our company strategy. We've got to change how we approach the market, how we sell this thing, packaging, all this kind of stuff there. So after those GDC conversations, again, pointing to the idea of you just got to be in the arena, so to speak. You got to have the conversations that will give you the insight. And then countless nights later, I was on my laptop creating slide decks, writing a business plan of just all right, what does it look like if Backtrace was a game tech company? And I still vividly remember my board meeting with my investors who knew nothing about the gaming industry and just telling them, "Hey, I think we should actually be focusing on games. Here's the market, here's everything." And then just giving me a blank stare going, "No, that's why are you doing that?" Well, this, because the gaming industry is also notorious for being really hard to sell software into, just given the life cycle of games and the like. Thankfully, it paid off though. So ended up having to go up that hill. But again, it was customer conversations, customers finding us, making sure we were out there, being open, being intellectually curious, that ended up helping us make a pivot that worked out.
And maybe a humble brag, I think it's 18 out of the top 20 companies.
18 of the top 20 gaming companies by revenue use Backtrace on at least one title.
Round of applause for that. So I got two more questions, and then we're going to transition into some audience questions and whatnot. So you kind of touched on a little bit of opportunities that may exist in the gaming sector moving forward. And for some of the folks that are maybe thinking about the gaming industry, maybe they're in the same shoes that you are at, of trying to convince others that, hey, it's probably time that we either look into the space or we double down. What do you think some of the opportunities that exist in the gaming industry And yeah.
Yeah. And I'll try to be mindful of time because this is also something I can talk about for hours. Like games is such a lovely, wild, and also like extremely challenging place and market to be in, which means that because I really love it, and like now that I'm kind of in it on some level, there's a lot of really interesting opportunities. So the first one is, Griffin Gaming, which I do some work with. They're a venture capital firm that focuses on game studios, game tech, and the like. They produced a tech report, I think last month. And one of the stats they said is of the studios surveyed, 63% of studios were creating a live service game. So if you're familiar with live service or games as a service, think of these games like Fortnite, et cetera, where you have like seasonal packs. It's like your game becomes more like a product. So first opportunity, if you're an entrepreneur out there, is that this actually changes the model and how you think about game development when there's live service games. Everything about it. Whether you're an artist, a content creator, and the like, what you're now doing is you're working on IP and like you have like more of a product life cycle as opposed to like a movie life cycle of a game where you're developing seasons and the like. Additionally, you have longer standing communities. And so even if you're not an artist or a developer, there's a whole new field out there and opportunities around how do I do community curation? How do I engage with influencers who are part of the community, right? Because all of these things are sub-communities as well. These games may have only a couple million people playing it, so you have no idea that there's like this one person within this couple million like people community that everyone looks up to. How do you manage that relationship and the like? So live service games and games as a service introduces a whole new opportunity with respect to the software development lifecycle, with respect to community and player engagement, as well as content and art creation and asset management, I should say. The second part of the opportunity, I would say, is AI as a buzzword, but this idea of with AI as it is represented today, it can represent itself as an autonomous agent, as something like a co-pilot or an assistance and the like. This is dramatically changing how games are developed. And do not listen to anyone out there. No one has been using AI to like a large extent for at most a year or two. So it's really fresh as well. So if you're looking for new opportunities and what it could develop, really looking at how games are developed and how AI will supplement them in some way. But that's just the game development side. I know of some small companies out there that are working on things like using AI for NPC development, so non-playable characters, etc. Using AI for ideation of creative assets and the like. So the application of AI to the full life cycle of developing and releasing a game is the second opportunity. The third, which may be lesser known, also was in this Griffin Gaming report, is capturing data on players is no longer the problem. So you have telemetry and observability on player interactions and players to a large extent. Now the problem is actually making that data actionable, or put another way, what do you do with that data? Who cares if this player has this network or interaction graph of 100 other players? Well, now there's this whole opportunity for essentially data intelligence platforms. And again, you don't have to be a developer to do this. It could be how do you use, if you're a game player yourself, how do you use player data to be able to understand the movement of players, the influencing of players, et cetera, and really democratizing that. Because the larger studios have had great tools on things like sentiment analysis, et cetera, scraping what's now known as X, Twitter feeds, all this kind of stuff. How do you give that to smaller studios? How do you give that to the other players out there? That's another opportunity. Next one is just generally, I talked about AI and the software development lifecycle, but if you look at companies like Unity and the like, the full life cycle of game development is drastically changing, specifically with how you build, release, and test and maintain games. So the SDLC within games, it's changing. There's so many opportunities there. Honestly, just sit down with a studio, see how they develop a game, and you're gonna find, I put money on it. You'd find at least 10 things that you could go build that will help them build a better game. And guess what? the game development process is not that unique per studio. The ideation, right, the ideas and the IP, that might be unique, but how they actually develop games, they all learn from each other and like. So look at the software development life cycle there. Yeah, I mean, those are just some of the opportunities I've seen. Again, you clearly can see that I love lists and I love talking about this stuff. So like, I'm happy to talk about many of the other opportunities that are out there in games.
And Abel will be sticking around for the day too. So do welcome you to pick his brain on this. And I mean, C-Tribe might have to pivot into the game development space or ancillary service for game development. Last question I have for you, Abel, is what is a question that you would ask yourself that would maybe unearth something that people may not already know?
Yeah, maybe like I think the typical question is like, what books have you liked within the last year, or something of that nature. I really can't undersell this. Like, no matter how nerdy or technical I am, and no matter how many hours I spend a day like programming because I love it, it's just being a diverse person actually is truly powerful and truly amazing thing. So like, I really love philosophy. I love things of the nature of like business. So what books have I read that I really like? I'm a huge fan of sci-fi, that actually, sorry, I should say, like historical fiction and like strategy and also philosophy that masquerades as sci-fi. I just really love that genre. So like the Terra Ignota series by Ada Palmer was one of my favorites this last year. I love reading about like how inspirational people think and like ultimately like how, like, I just love when it humanizes them in some way. So like the Almanac by Naval Ravikant, if I'm saying his last name correctly, was really good. Yeah, so like that's probably what I'd ask myself to illuminate things that I enjoy, or at least like learn something about me that you may not have known otherwise. Otherwise, I'd ask, what am I listening to these days? In which case, I'd talk another couple of hours about the music I'm listening to. So.
Maybe it's a segue to the Q&A. We will pass the mic along. Hopefully we have some athletic catchers of styrofoam balls here. Sounded really weird. Anyone with a question want to ask Abel? Are you ready?
Oh my gosh, no.
You got it. You got it. I believe in you.
How much do I believe in myself?
There we go. Hey, there we go.
First of all, thank you to you guys for putting on this opportunity to kind of connect in this space. Oh, sorry.
There you go.
That's
It's a mic.
to connect
Oh my
in this
gosh.
space. That's why you were holding it. I didn't even realize that's what it was. C-Tech. Innovation. For someone like myself who I am not in the gaming industry, I'm not in the tech sphere, for me, I heard about the C-Tribe event, and for me it was to connect with individuals who are in software development because I'm in an outside niche, and in order to solve the problem that I'm looking to solve, I decided to consider a gaming option. Now, being someone who's outside of the space, and thinking of Monica, actually, I was at Edmonton Unlimited and she recommended this session for me to come to. So being someone in that sphere who has no clue about the tech space, what would be, I guess, some foundational steps to take to start connecting and start figuring out how to collaborate and bring a non-tech idea into a tech space? What would those steps look like in terms of entering into that? Sure.
If you don't mind me asking, it depends on the idea. So like, can you give me a general sense?
It would be an educational gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that helps. It'd be
No.
it'd be a bit of fintech and educational gaming.
Yeah, it definitely helps. So the wonderful thing about the gaming industry is that the ways that you meet people both exist digitally as well as in person. So like, I'm on Discord a lot, and like, I know like you may be like, oh, like, what's Discord, all this kind of stuff. Like, just digital communities are a really good place. So the first recommendation I'd have is, like, how do you get connected is actually just start having conversations. Because at least everyone I shouldn't say that. Like, a lot of people that I've interacted with in the gaming industry, they are as long, like the second in the conversation that they realize that I'm actually just genuinely interested, I'm intellectually curious, and I'm like actually trying to like do something interesting, for example, like what you're doing, they just open up like an open book. And they talk about, oh yeah, the lessons they've learned, etc. And then you actually hear about, this is how some people get together to create their indie game. It's just through these conversations. So first I recommend meeting people and engaging in the communities, either through things like Discord or through GDC. If you have the ability to do it, GDC is next month in San Francisco in March. You've got C Tribe here. In Canada itself, for example, I often go to Montreal and the like, so like Montreal's a good place as well. So I just recommend connecting. The second thing I would say is so there's a lot of content creators and influencers out there. So like, can you connect with communities? That's the first part. The second part is there's people out there who are trying to create a career on like educating other people about how to develop games and all this kind of stuff. Just reach out to them, right? Because you reach out to them, they probably know all of the people that they connected with or like that are reaching out to them, and maybe they can connect you with someone else. Like, and they, my experience is they actually really like connecting other people. So connect with, this is me being nerdy, I apologize. Like if you think of it like a graph, connect with the nodes that have the most connections, like the people making YouTube videos.
Right.
Or the people who are talking a lot in the Discord channel.
Yeah.
Right? Because then the more connections they have, the higher probability that they can connect you with someone,
Right.
or at the very least that they might be the person you want to connect with. I think the last thing is don't be afraid to become a technology or a games person. So when I was like figuring out the games industry, I used to watch documentaries about game studios. Like that's what I would like watch on YouTube or Netflix, and like one of my favorite ones is the documentary by NoClip on Supergiant Games, who made Hades. I learned so much just watching that series, and then that actually helped me engage with the people because I could use the terminology they use, right? I could speak the way they spoke about these things. So just don't be like, just dive right in. Just go learn as much as possible there. The last point is going back to this idea of like nodes and connections. So like, if you go look at, so what are the concentrating points of the game industry with respect to how to find our larger connections? The first is this notion of game publishers. So think about like games that are being published and like see who's creating those games, because those are individuals, even though they're super busy, et cetera, like you just don't know. You can outreach, et cetera. But the other part is that there's a pretty vibrant industry of investment in the gaming community. So go look at venture capital firms that are doing investments like Griffin Gaming, like A16Z, Andreessen Horowitz is the other name. Like what they'll do a couple things. By the way, if you're looking for portfolio companies that like are looking for jobs, is a great place to look, because they'll invest in a company and then they're actively hiring, et cetera. And then the second, like when you look at those things, you'll like find the people who are starting companies, and then you connect with them, and they can tell you how like they connect with it. So again, just have this idea of like, okay, where do all the connections meet? Influencers, these communities, digital and otherwise, and then publishers and venture capital firms.
Thank you. That was a great answer and great ideas that I never considered. I appreciate it.
And maybe one thing that I will add to that too, especially as a non-technical person myself, I'm not in the weeds of programming or building, but I think as Abel has alluded to, like just getting your hands dirty and figuring out like low code methods to bring your vision alive, right? Whether that's like creating a newsletter using MailChimp, or whether that is, hosting kind of small intimate community gatherings like this, and just kind of like banging your head against the wall to stitch together a solution. You might, get fortunate like us 6 years later to then have the capacity to bring on a team to actually accelerate some of the ideation that you have validated yourself using kind of low code technology and things that don't require much of a technological background either. And talk to Edmonton Unlimited. I mean, they are also the folks. There we go, yeah. Maybe we'll take another question. I think there was a question. Geisha, want to throw the mic over to him?
Yeah, maybe is there any kind of like thing that you realized transferring from, because you said you weren't aiming at the gaming industry at first, so going from the tech industry to the gaming industry, was there any like kind of like things that you're like, oh, the gaming, you know, like, oh, this industry is like different because of X, Y, Z, as opposed to like the tech industry?
Yeah, there's a ton. There's a significant amount of things that are different between enterprise software technology or the tech industry and gaming. Some major insights I've had just quickly are, so when you're selling software, one of the things you're always trying to ask yourself is who's the budget owner? So who signs the check ultimately? Because who signs the check is who you have to convince at the end of the day, or at least be part of the people you have to convince. Who signs the check within the gaming industry is significantly different than your normal enterprise software company, because a game studio can, like, you have an idea for a game, you're gonna build an MVP potentially, then you're gonna go try and raise funds through a game publisher or a VC. What you're doing is you're creating something on the order of like a 3 to 5 year plan. So the first thing, just to keep it really quick, is like how budget flows through a game studio is significantly different. That was number one. How to connect with game studios is a lot different than, or there's nuanced differences than enterprise software as well. So like conferences are similar between the two, but then like Discord communities, as an example, was like something new to me. I grew up with IRC, but then like I was like, oh yeah, I'm going back to Discord and like talking to all these people who are creating this game or playing this game, etc. Like, it's also I'm doing it for work. I mean, it's a little, yeah, it's weird. So how you engage with the people you're selling the software to, so the studios. The third thing was different, or I should say, not unique, but it represents a different hurdle, is that the games industry is very kind of like reputation and who you know. And because I didn't know anyone in the games industry, like it was just about the small incremental progress of like just getting to know people. And then, making sure you're adding some sort of value to the conversation, in whatever way you can. And then that ended up helping me when I was talking to other people, where it'd be like, oh yeah, I know this person, and they're like, oh yeah, I've worked with this person before. Okay, cool. Like you're part of the scene, so to speak. You know what I mean? That was significantly different than I think enterprise software, because with tech companies, like they're used to buying software. Games is just now, again, another thing from this Griffin Gaming report is that now studios are seriously doing the buy instead of build. So like instead of building it themselves, they're starting to buy technologies. So it's definitely a new motion for them. There's five other things I can talk about, but I won't. Maybe let's talk about it later. How about that?
And maybe to conclude on that, let's give a round of applause to Abel. So yeah, Abel will be sticking around. If you want opportunity just for a meet and greet, please do so. We will be kind of just cleaning up things in the back just because we have to be out of here by 1:15. We will have a game jam that is starting at 1:30 at Edmonton Unlimited today. So we're really excited about it. It's welcoming to hobbyists, game developers, people that are just looking to maybe get their hands dirty with how to build and create a game, or people that are maybe just looking to observe what the process is like. So we welcome you to join us there as well. Tomorrow we have some more exciting programming, like our esports tournament that we're doing, our pitch competitions and stuff. So we really want this to be a unique exploration of gaming culture, because naively, before we created this, I was very rookie in this space. I'm still very rookie in this space, but thankfully we have gentlemen like Gaishli who are on our team guiding the vision. And yeah, I wanted to thank everyone as well for making the session. It was a good half day that we spent together. Thank you for taking time at our State of the Address today. And just a round of applause for everyone. Cool. Thank you.